guys, welcome back to the Brando and Joe podcast. For today's podcast episode, our guest is Diksha Mangtani. She receives her master's in psychology from Baruch University, currently works at Retensa Employee Retention as a talent analytics consultant. Welcome, Diksha. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Oh, we appreciate it. I guess before we get into the episode, you just graduated from Baruch, right? It was
I
like this
did.
past May.
Congrats.
Yes, thank you.
How does it feel to be a full-time adult now?
It's new, it's different, it's a lot more fun than being in school and working.
I feel like that's what we hear from a lot of people. I remember back in undergrad, there were like some, I guess, alumni, but they're really just like 24-year-olds coming back to like see the school again. And they're like, stay in school. It's so much fun. We don't want to work.
I'm only 2 months into working full time, but I'm already feeling like I want to go back to school for a PhD. So I might be in the same place that you just described very soon.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Was that like a recent thought, or was it kind of like an oncurring thought through grad school?
Oh, I have always wanted to do a PhD. It's a little tricky because I have to figure out a lot of things at this point. I don't know if I want to go right back to school after completing my masters. But I do know for sure that I want to do a PhD someday.
Yeah, better than us. I don't know if I could do it.
Not a PhD?
Nah, maybe one day, but it would have to be like I think 5 to 10 years. I think I'd want to work first. But I guess that kind of brings me into like what you actually do for work now. You work at Retensa Employee Retention as a talent analytics consultant, as we were just talking about. Would you keep working at this place if you went for your PhD? Is that something like you could do kind of as like a full time?
Actually, yes. I'm very happy my organization offers that option. We actually do have a couple of employees who are doing their PhD and also working at the same time. Not, I don't know if all of them are in the same department as I am. But I do know that that is an option if I ever want to pursue. That option is open for me.
No, it's great to have some flexibility with your job. And just wondering too, could you maybe describe a little bit of the type of work that you do for our audience as well?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a talent and analytics consultant. This is a position which is on the cusp of data analysis and talent management. All our talent management projects, sorry, deal with data, and that's where I step in. I work with my team to analyze any sort of data that comes from these projects, quantitative, qualitative. Um, we have historical data from all the projects that we worked on, so internally as well, making best use of all the data that we have.
Is that like working with data? Is that um, I guess like a known thing in talent management? Because like one of my questions was going to be is your previous, I guess, job titles where it's just like talent management associate, I think one of them was,
Yes.
and now you're talent analytics consultant, if that's correct.
Correct.
So did you like are you now doing more data with that like analytics title, or is like talent management just always about data no matter really what the title is?
Talent analytics sits within talent management very much still. I would say I started my summer assistantship as a talent management associate. I explored a lot more within talent management outside of just analytics. And then I entered the internship knowing that I want to specialize in analytics, but I got a really good chance to explore everything even outside of it. And when it came to me converting it to a full time, luckily there was a position available, and I started specializing in analytics more than talent management in general.
So you kind of mentioned there that like when you started with your internship, you kind of had this in mind. I wanted to kind of talk about how that internship worked with your schooling. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Baruch, they don't require that you get an internship, correct?
No, they do not require it. I am an international student. I was an international student, and we got credits. I think domestic students as well. Everyone gets credits for completing an internship, but for international students, is that you cannot work in the field without having CPT credits for it. CPT is curricular practical training. So it was inevitable. If I had to gain some experience before graduating, it would have to be through an internship.
Oh, okay. So that kind of opened the door for you to get one while you were going through school.
Yes.
And Did you kind of see value in that, like having an internship while trying to complete your degree at Baruch?
Definitely, I would not have chosen any other way. I feel like starting an internship in the summer was the perfect timing for me too, because I took only one course in the summer and parallelly was getting my bearings in talent management, understanding the different types of work that you can do. At the same time, having the option to choose courses regarding something you're really interested in. The first 2 semesters, I had the option to choose electives, and I did not necessarily choose them because I was interested in them. Sometimes I would choose them because they were the easier way, they fit my schedule. But after the internship, I actually picked courses even outside of what was in the MSIO curriculum just because it helped me with the internship, with the job, anything that I needed to do at work. I had the option to go back to school, learn it while I'm still doing it, and that hand in hand really helped a lot.
One of these classes where I forgot like the actual name they told us about it. It was like a data analytics class, or is it like a data science class? Was that one of them?
It was programming for analytics
Yeah.
in Python. Yeah. This is a class that's actually offered in the business school for business analytics students. Very 101 level Python. Um, and I really wanted to explore that as a as a means to making myself better at analytics.
And I'm guessing that because, I mean, we've had a lot of people on this podcast talk about like data and data analytics and programming, but could you say that you see like an importance in knowing how to, not like super high level Python coding, but like enough to get by for like data analytics? Like, could you see the importance of that in work, or was like the class not helpful at all?
Certainly. This is where I actually I actually met a lot of professionals and asked them why they learned a coding language before I chose to do this. And the answer everyone had was it's good to know it, but it's you can still get by without knowing it. A lot of experienced professionals still choose to use SPSS because it's easier, it's quicker. I feel like in my experience, some of the projects, some of the data that we get from our clients is just better suited for Excel, for SPSS, for Python, depends on projects to projects. So there are certainly some projects where I feel like Python is a lot better than SPSS, and having that skill actually allows me to explore that.
I know sometimes I feel like we should just be using Excel, no matter how much we talk about Python. Uh, I guess for our audience, we met Diksha through one of our past guests, Casey, and we all kind of started like a mini coding project. I think we brought it up on here before once. I forget. Um, but are we just gonna get to the end of this project to be like, all these companies use Excel? Like, why are we even learning this Python?
Excel, I feel like I live in Excel. I in my entire workday, I have at least 2 to 3 tabs open for 3 different Excel workbooks. Uh,
Same here.
Even if I'm importing my data to Python, it's an Excel or a CSV file. Even if it's an SPSS, my data comes from an Excel. So
Just keep it in Excel. Why are we doing this?
definitely.
That does kind of like make a good point though about like the use of Excel and learning it before you learn any other language model as well. Did you find that you had to kind of learn higher level stuff in Excel that would prepare you for when you were using Python?
I did. I actually, all of my prior experience, I probably should address this. I did a master's from Mumbai University in applied psychology. At that time, I was working a lot with uh, personality research, in which I dealt a lot with Excel databases. After I came here during my first year, I worked with Excel a lot. So I kind of found doing it so much, I found the hacks and tricks of it. Like you can watch a video that tells you shortcuts to PowerPoint, but unless you actually use them and practice Excel formulae, especially the really complex ones, the ones that are nested one within the other, until you actually do it, it's tricky to get a hang of it by just watching videos or without practicing it. So I did have to do a fair share of practice before this role.
Definitely. I know I use a lot of Excel in my work and I know Joe does too. So we've
Only Excel.
but that kind of does lead me actually to an important point. So when you're dealing with all this data, specifically in your area of expertise, like, is it cleaned or do you have to go through and clean it on your own? Because I know, like, Joe is talking about that. That was kind of the role he played. Like, is that something that you have to do as well?
To some extent, yes. I feel like that's one of the products at my organization is a software platform. It's called Talent Pulse, which is basically for everything TM. It captures all of employee experience through surveys, through interviews. It has the data on it at all times. You link it to a client's HRIS, and can import all of that data and put it together for you. So all you do is download Excel files, like export the data to a CSV and start your analysis. So having that software has helped me a lot, like make my work quicker. But at the same time, not sometimes we don't work with data that comes through the platform. We get data from the client directly. So in those cases, yes.
Okay. I kind of wanted to take a quick step back and act kind of as like someone who doesn't know talent management super well, and I'm going to say act like I really don't. uh, so if I'm someone talking to you about like what you do in talent management, is this clients come to your company, Retensa, and they ask for your like um, assistance in managing their employees and doing their survey work? Is that kind of like a correct overview?
Yes, it's a very big partnership in an effort to retain the best talent, to attract the best talent, and motivate their employees. So uh, I feel like talent management, the umbrella term, has so much IO psychology to it. Anything that you can think of within IO psychology has some applications in talent management, correct? How you measure experience, how you put it into, how you prompt it with questions, you put it in a Likert scale, you collect data, you put it into numbers. Uh, it's useful at every step of the entire employee life cycle. You know, when an employee enters the organization, they have some critical success factors, I would say, that not all client organizations have a team of IO psychologists to capture that very unique experience to someone who is new in the company, to someone who's lived in this company, has worked in this company for 5 years, 10 years, or more. Every at every stage, I've found that employees want something very different that's very unique to them. Externally speaking, when clients come to us for, so it's like we have a team of IO psychologists that have expertise in measuring the employee experience and analyzing it, identifying key trends, everything HR analytics really. It's one of the courses that I did at Baruch. Along with all the theoretical knowledge, I feel like it fits perfectly within this talent management umbrella. I don't know if that answers the question, Joe. I guess I could be more specific.
It kind of answered my
No,
next question too.
it no, it definitely does. I wanted to, because I guess like the next point of my question was, when you're working with clients, does your work really vary on the kind of clients you have, or are the tasks you're doing pretty similar? And I guess you could just say the content of the data is different, but like the practices that you're doing from day to day are the same. Or is it that the clients, judge what you do?
It's actually very different. Directly or indirectly, we deal with billions of employee voices. So the nature of their voice is different for every client. The reason that the client comes to you is very different. Some are looking for partnership on finding the best talent. Some are looking for partnership on retaining the best talent once it's in the company. Some are going through organizational changes and want to measure the pre and the post conditions. It's like it's hard to describe specifics of the projects that we receive, but largely throughout the employee life cycle, as depending on the client's needs, their needs vary. Our project specifics change. It's not just different survey data that we deal with. Sometimes it's no surveys at all. Sometimes it's focus groups. Sometimes it's something entirely different. Sometimes there's no data. You start from data collection. So very diverse.
Wow. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier about your HR analytics class you took that helped. I kind of wanted to go into a little more depth on the classes you took at Baruch that you see that direct correlation to how you apply it to your work. So I know you said like applying a Likert scale or things of that nature. Where did you get the knowledge that you have to do the work you're doing now?
Both my masters have a lot of courses that I took. They had a lot of courses that helped me with this. Um, Specifically analytics, I say, because that's where I learned to predict, create really complex regression models, um, undergo really some really complex statistical procedures, um, that I find very relevant in my work every day.
Yeah, I wish we got to take some of those classes. I know we heard you and Casey talk about them a couple times, and it is interesting that you get to pick, I guess, like classes that you hope will help you in your like future employment. Um, Not that I'm like trashing Hofstra's classes. I like what we're doing, but it is like an interesting take.
There's actually one more course that I just remembered, a course on psychometrics with the same professor actually. This course, psychometrics, focused more on like developing surveys, reliability, validity, pilots, factor analysis, stuff like that. Which was also very helpful. So psychometrics and HR analytics are the two key courses I would say that helped me a lot.
Really is like a trend in our episodes with just like the stats and data, but we're loving it.
Oh yeah, no, we're definitely here for it. We always joke about this. It's like just when we think we're veering away from people analytics or data analytics, it creeps back into our episodes. But there's a reason for that, and you can definitely see that there's a lot of value in it. That's partially why all three of us and Casey are working together to try and learn Python, because we can see that that value is important. So with that being said, Diksha, we do want to ask you one last question. We ask all of our guests this question, and it's one piece of advice that you have for prospective IO students out there who are entering the field.
I would say definitely explore internships while you're studying. Explore the right internships. It's very difficult without prior experience, and I've been there. But once you find the right internship and it fits exactly with what you want to do, it gives you a much more clearer vision of what you want to do after you graduate. So I definitely recommend finding internships while you're still in the programs and kind of choosing your courses depending on what you actually enjoy doing in the workplace.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I don't know how many programs out there require internships. Brandon, I feel like Hofstra is kind of in the minority in that one, right?
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of the time there's kind of like a little bit of both. There are some programs that say don't get an internship, and there's some that say like it's recommended you get an internship. Hofstra's, I believe, is one of the few that requires. So, like, I know you were saying, Disha, about Baruch, like you can get an internship, and it's something that is definitely seen as a positive. I know at Hofstra, it's like it's a necessity. Like we have to have it.
How did you find the internship? Did Were you able to are you able to pick courses depending on what you enjoy from your internship? What's that experience like?
Not necessarily. We have at Hofstra we have a preset 2-year schedule. So all the classes we take, everybody before us has taken, and everyone after us is going to take. And part of that is kind of cool because we get to like learn very set things. It's very like regiment, and we know what we're going to expect. Um, Now, to add to that, we don't have the opportunity to apply to other classes outside of our program, so we wouldn't be able to take a class that is in one of the business courses or anything like that. But we do get to learn a lot, and we can't really necessarily apply it to our internship. To answer your question, Diksha, it's more we have like an internship class, and we all kind of can communicate and discuss our internships with our other classmates and with our professor, and that way we kind of get to talk about what we're learning and see the application of the IO in our own work days, in all of our work days. So that's kind of where the internship comes into play for us.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and I want to add on to what Brandon said and what you were saying before. It really is just like invaluable experience, be able to talk with like other interns or other people in your cohort. Like maybe you're doing talent management and someone else is doing recruiting or consulting, and you could be like, I don't really like what I'm doing in talent management, or vice versa. I really like it, and my classmate is doing this, and you can kind of see like, oh, maybe I would like consulting more, or I would like talent management more. And it's really not, you just apply, you just send one in, like, hope you get it. So it's definitely great advice to just like seek out certain internships.
Yeah, it allows you a chance to
Yeah.
network, right? Like with all diverse roles that people are exploring, all your peers are exploring. I can see how it could benefit.
You might even get a return offer. Who knows?
Yeah.
Could save you looking for a job.
One thing to add to Diksha's advice that would be great is utilizing the network that your school offers. So, for example, Hofstra has a very valuable network in the New York City area. And that's kind of how a lot of us land our first internships. And I think that could apply to any school. So if you know any alumni that are in any positions that you would want to work in, or know any alumni that are offering internships, definitely reach out to those, because I feel like that's where you're going to find a lot more easier ways to get into those like entry level positions, because it is tough out there to try and get into those types of positions for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely. Also, PsyOp helps so much for networking, for internships and stuff. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, 100%. I think even like what Brandon was talking about the alumni, like using their network, I'm pretty sure schools, it's like the alumni network, like they sign on to be contacted. If I'm
Some schools, yeah.
right, it's not like I know sometimes the thought going through your head is like, well, I'm just messaging this random person, and like they might feel like annoyed, which they're never annoyed. Like, please message out. Um, but some of like the alumni actually sign on to be messaged because they want to talk and like help the students.
Mhm.
So it's great advice, Brandon. Like you 100% should utilize that.
Yeah, well, Diksha, we want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking about your job and kind of the way that your schooling kind of correlated with that. We really appreciate you coming on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun talking to you.
Yeah, it was a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So another great informational episode with Diksha. It's really cool to speak to students who have graduated. I feel like it's kind of they're like a little bit ahead of where we are, Joe, and getting to kind of hear how their lives are shaping out right after graduation gives me some hope.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I thought this was a great episode, and Diksha did a fantastic job of showing how she kind of like utilized her IO courses in her current position right now. Sometimes it could be hard to make that connection. You're like, learning these things in school, is it even going to apply to what I'm doing in the real world? And I know sometimes it doesn't. Um, but Diksha showed how she really used the knowledge that she learned, and it's helping her where she is right now.
Yeah, and like it's funny, when we were at PsyOp, we've been talking to a few professionals when we were there, but one of them were talking about uh, deprogramming grad students when they get into the workforce. And it sounds like the coursework that Diksha had kind of helped her out in that, and she didn't necessarily have to be deprogrammed too much when entering the workforce. So it's kind of cool to see that there is some opportunity out there for us for sure.
No, yeah, I remember them saying that. I wonder if we'll have to be deprogrammed. I hope not. But
Yeah, I hope
thank
not
you
too.
everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys.